Okay, there we go. Wow. You would think I would be organized after all this time and have my bench all figured out and have all of this working, but turns out it's just a complete cluster. So, right, how is everybody? And do I sound okay? I had a comment that some people wanted me to work on my audio settings and everything. I think the video is okay, but you might be picking up a little glare off the top of the Mamba. And yeah, hey, Brian Chambers, good evening. So, part of the comments I said a couple of weeks ago when I was really thinking about how I want to reformat one, the podcast, and two, what I do, is I want to start doing Friday Flying updates live. And the rationale is by the time I shoot the video, go into post production on my laptop and do all the editing, export it, upload it to YouTube, da 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 da. I basically put in about almost 2, maybe 3 hours into the evening on a Friday night. Not that I don't mind doing it, but why not do it live and get the same effect and just go from there and grow the experience? So that is what I'm attempting to do. So obviously the Friday Flying updates are a little different than the podcast in that it's a little bit more free fall and I get to actually look at my tablet, I get to read your comments, and we can interact a little bit more. So maybe it is a little RC after hours to it, and I think that's going to be the fun part where I get to mash what I already do as far as content and having fun and the RC After Hours themes and really just start having a lot of fun going together and, hey Michael, and just doing what we love about this community. So it's my opportunity really to talk to you guys, talk about some of the stuff I've done. And with the changes that I've done to the podcast, the benefit is I get to start flying on Sunday again, which is awesome. So that's why I think we're going to start seeing the Friday flying updates happening on Friday evenings, because I'll do a Friday flying update one week and an RC After Hours podcast the following week, and we'll just start interacting that way. So yeah, hey Jody Springs, hey man, one of the guys that you passed off the airplane is watching right now live as well. So whew. So I got out flying. I've been on vacation this week. We went down to west to Oakville and had a really great vacation. So today I got home, I got home the other night, and today was my first opportunity to fly. It was raining and so on Thursday, and had to do some stuff with the family and take care of a few things. So, yeah, so flew the Mamba. I have a video. I have to edit the video. There's a quick little tidbit on how slow this thing can land on my social media. I'll get it closer. I think that's the funniest thing about people commenting about the videos is I don't tend to fly close enough when I'm doing a maiden, and that's just because I'm not crazy enough to get it too close to me until I understand. Now I'm learning about the Aurora and how that all works. So it's funny, I'm getting pings and social media and everything on the watches and everything while we're going. So I'm going to focus on the topic hand, which is the Mamba. I think I've found my new go-to airplane. Initially, I said the 60 would have been fantastic and lovely and amazing, but I think the 10 is the sweet spot. It's just the right size to fit in the car, will fit in the back seat of the car, in the back of my Elantra, and go really well. And it flew so good once I started understanding it. So without the stabilizer on, I had full throws, and the elevator was so pitch sensitive. The other week I had gone in with the software and done a couple tweaks because I didn't feel like I had enough throw. Well, this time I had way too much throw, so I'd be flying along without the stabilization on, and it was all over the place. So what I'm going to do for non-stabilized flight is I'm going to have I am going to go with non-stabilized, and I'll control the rates from the radio and not let the Aurora do anything. Now I did notice when I put in Expo, it was really not responsive. So it's just going to be weight. So I'll have my medium, low, medium, and high for non-stabilized flight. In stabilized flight, because the first one I flew, because I had lowered my rates, it was really odd. So I landed it, changed it back up, and afterwards I flew great. And like I said, the landing alone was amazing. Finally, when I put her on the tarmac, initially I was landing on the grass, but once I put her down on the tarmac, the track or whatever, it just kind of floated in really, really, really well. And I just, it was mind blowing. So I am noticing, however, my A specs, my old A specs, which are my 3S 2200 65Cs, they're starting to show their age. So I didn't have the performance I was kind of hoping. I haven't tried the battery that came with the plane yet. And like today, I took the Tundra out with me, and I took this plane and I flew just 3 flights, and that was it. 3 batteries, and that was all. So you know, sometimes you just can't beat a biplane. No, I will go on this record too, Brian. I love biplanes, and this thing has really impressed me. Now, bang for buck, what I paid for it, it better be impressive, and it is. It landed really well. It took off really well in a crosswind. Lots of rudder control, and like coming in, I came into the runway and I just sort of crabbed it in, and it was so slow. You think, like, I've had other airplanes where I've slowed down and they just like the Pawnee, you slow it down too much and it just drops out of the air. So this thing has been really good. I am going to go in, do a couple more tweaks, and I'm just going to keep flying it and getting used to it, and change up that non-stabilized mode so I have a little bit more control. I don't always want to fly it in stabilized mode, and I went up and did a couple flips and loops. I threw it into the 3D mode, which is 100% throws, right, just for a couple of minutes just to see what it would do, and it seemed okay. So as I get more comfortable, you'll start seeing this plane is definitely a battery killer. Yeah, I do want to, Eddie Black says a high graphene. Yeah, that will come. I feel like I've spent a fairly healthy budget this year on RC stuff, so I will keep flying with the batteries, and I don't mind. One of the things I always do with airplanes, and this sounds so funny, it drives people crazy, I think, is I see how slow they can fly, and that's a huge thing for me. But like overall, fit and finish. I had a question on social media about the fit and finish, the foam and everything, and I think they've done really well, like the plastic and everything. Compared to my experience on the Flex Jet, this one just seems like really well. I'm gonna try something here. I rigged up another camera. Did I get that right? No, 2 cameras. Yeah. Hey, look at that. Okay. It's a little jerry rig, but you know, there we go. The second camera, just so we can have a look. Woo! This is one of the things I intend on changing up about my social media, my live stream rigs. Change those cameras. Right now, I'm just using one of my action cams, which I use for normal podcasts, and this, if you can see on the main camera, is just an old 640 camera, but you get an idea of just this plane's fit and finish and polish and everything. So we'll go in there and pull the battery bay. I don't know how much you're going to be able to see, but it's a decent little setup. Woo, nice motor. I don't know if I'll try this thing on 4S. I'm kind of happy on 3S, and so far anyhow, but you know, I say that often. I'm happy with the power setting and everything, and just go. But you know what? This airplane has, once I figured it out, and once I've got to a point where I'm happy with it, I think, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of flying out of this one. So I'll get there. I'll figure out where I want to put my onboard action cam and stick it on there. And hey, Victor, you Canadian. Yeah, I think I'll put an onboard camera. We'll get some video of it going through the air, and I will slowly start going. I don't know how many of you are really into 3D flying. I think I'm more of an acrobatic fan. I can't see myself enjoying a hover for too long, but this plane just it looks nice. And like I said, the size is nice. I think the biggest thing, if you have any kind of issues and you got to get the receiver out, then you got to take the wings apart. And that was the only thing that really, when I was doing the updates to change the settings, at least you can pop open that back compartment, put your USB in there, and talk to it. And I was even getting a shuddering on one of my lower wings, and I noticed I hadn't done the connection inside wasn't the greatest. So I went in and I reseated everything on the Y cable, so it definitely acted a lot better after that. But it's one screw, and then obviously you've got the wing strut pieces which hold it all together. And really the only crazy part of the build are those gluing in the stands that support the upper ring. You do a little shaving, a little sanding, and then epoxy, set them up, let them dry, and they work. And so far, it's been a really good, that gear, I put the gear through its paces already, and it seemed pretty nice. Zip tied on pieces. Everything hooks in really nice. I've got my CG point, and it flew well on those A-spec batteries, which are probably a little lighter. So a graphene, which I do have, one of the graphenes, will do okay. Let's move that phone over there, put that panel back in. So again, I'm going to go into the software. I'm probably going to, I went to like a 35% rate on the elevator versus the stock 22, and that seemed like, without the stabilizer, it was all over the place. So it was kind of cool to get it flying in the air and just relax with it. So you know how it is. So I'm sure that I will be muting a few things on the videos I take off the first time. But it went remarkably better. The running joke is this airplane has these serrated edges on the front, on the leading edge. See these guys here? And so the first time I took off with it, and when I noticed I didn't have enough elevator throw, the battery was probably a little saggy, I caught the edge of the field and I cartwheeled the plane instantaneously, and it was because I caught those tiger teeth in there. So yeah, make sure you lock tight the motor mount. My screws came loose. That is from 2007 CRF 450. That is a great point. I will go over the aircraft, and that's something that I think a lot of people should do after you've done a few cycles with aircraft. I got a few that are tried and true, like that Tundra has been through everything and still flies great. But even then, this morning I wasn't paying attention on a touch and go and nerfed it over, and so I think I will test that out and make sure that motor is good. So overall, I'm gonna say, whoa, definitely a plus on this airplane. It's wowed me, and I'm going to be flying it a lot. Like I said, size-wise and everything, it is on spot as far as what you can fit into your car really well, functions and features and everything. About the only downside is 3S2200 is price. It is probably, well, I don't know, it was 400 Canadian, which is hefty as far as what airplanes go and what you're, but bang for buck, that flight controller and Aurora. So yeah. Really the only thing that I have a gripe about the aircraft is if you need to do any kind of technical on it, any kind of setup change, you need a laptop. Why they don't have a Bluetooth module and an app, an iOS app or an Android app that lets you get in there and go crazy, I don't know why, but So, okay, moving on to other stuff on the bench. Let me actually get this guy off the bench so we have room. And hey, it does have a manual, and I recommend reading that manual. That's something I've learned about the Flex stuff. Read the manual. There's always these little tidbits. So, okay, I'm going to try and put this guy down somewhere. There's so much going on this evening that I really don't have a lot of bench space. So, I'm going to try and park this plane over here and not trip on it. It does sit on its nose cone really nicely as well. And park really well. I got a bunch of foam tube bits to protect the tail, so I can just put it out of the way. Here, 2 camera. So I did get some stuff for 3D printing. Don't need that. That should be showing up on the camera. Now it's over here. One of the things I'm going to do eventually too for this setup is I'm going to move the PC and put a monitor so I can do my quick references and eventually set that camera up on an ISO. So one of the things I've been trying to deal with lately is my 3D printer, my filament, my PLA has been cracking and popping and everything, and that is basically just an issue with that's an issue with just humidity in the area. So like right now, my ambient temperature, ambient humidity in this room is 50. So I'm actually going to start putting my spool, my operational spool, into the bed. I'm going to set everything up inside the container. Well, you can actually see it in the video. Right there, that's where all my other stuff goes. Inside, there's a drying one of those ones you plug in, heat up, and so I'm gonna get around to doing all this stuff and making it go. And I guess the idea is just to save those spools. Talking to a couple of people who do a lot of 3D printing, Their comment was project per spool. Use it up and just open a new one when you do a new project, which makes sense. The other thing is to find a food dehydrator and put it in there. I've heard people also use toaster ovens. I don't actually have a toaster oven, so I'm going to try this. And according to this guy here, the silica can be reactivated by placing it in an oven on a cooking sheet from anywhere from half an hour to 2 hours at 2 to 250, or in defrost mode in your microwave for 10 minutes. So I'm going to find a container that's either oven safe or microwave safe and go with that. I'm a little leery about using this in something I cook. We'll see. I got to try it. The tube and fittings, basically the operational spool will be sitting there. Everything's going to come out of that container that's not spool related, and I'll put them into other containers. But I'm going to run a tube from the floor up to the unit. So basically, this is going to go inside the box, and it'll be up through a tube. So in theory, this filament won't be exposed to any of the humidity. And again, this guy, the monitor, will just be in there to let me know what it is. So there we go. So that's some 3D printing. Probably gonna get back into 3D printing. There's a bunch of stuff that I want to do over time. I want to finish off a few projects. I really want to try and get that big crazy Spitfire, which is sitting back there, back in the air. Well, not back in the air, in the air in general. See if it works. Again, don't really trust it for my main aircraft, but it's still kind of cool to do, and it feels like it is a good winter sport. Let's see. Hammerhead rolls, knife edge. Hey, yeah, the on the Mamba 10, I was knife edging right away. And I'm like, it made me look like a better pilot than I probably am. But hey, I'll take the help where I can. And hi, Robert from Alberta. Very cool, another Canadian. A few minutes late for the party. Hey, good evening, Luis. And hey, Brian. Cool. So I'm just looking at the comments as I go, and like I said, that's part of the benefit of running the show and everything this way. So 3D printing aside, we'll do a little bit more as the season goes along, and we'll have some fun. Okay, I've been messing around and having a good time with our friend Norman, and here we go. Norman is starting to look pretty damn awesome as far as I'm concerned. And let's see, if I hold him up just like this, look at that. Look at that. So my wife was very nice this afternoon and broke out the black acrylic paint and started touching Norman up and getting him going. For those who have not seen what Norman looks like yet, hold on, got my battery. I'm going to turn on my radio because there's a little other surprise. Alright, we're on Norman. Norman. I flew Norman the other weekend, and the change was obviously setting him up with a 12x6 prop. So that's an old 480 motor. It's probably blowing out the camera, but woo! Look at him. I can't wait to fly this guy at night. He is, you can see a little bit of the wing. Obviously, there's a whole heap and load of LEDs in her. And the flying cow is indeed awesome because he's got a party trick. So that's a little something that's being cooked up by our good friends at who've done the Radian light module, and I will get their links. Anybody messages me, it was a wing nuts to that effect. So that's Brian and his son Alex, who've done a wonderful job at creating some equipment. This is the beta, so I'm not going to show you what it looks like, but it does move, which is pretty freaking awesome. Yes, I am looking for just the right size of cowbell for the front of him, just because it'll finish it off, and he is the baby size. Ginorman is Ginorman is awesome. Little Norman is cool. This again is the 3-channel one from Laine's plane. I will look at getting a wing over time with a 4-channel just for the fun of it, so cut in the ailerons, and why not? Then I can just take the 2 wings, swap them out, and go and just fly whatever way. So a little bit more paint on the top, obviously the wings, and this side here needs a little more touch-ups, a little more detail in the eyes and everything, but Yeah. No, it's a pretty cool plane. It flies really well, really slow. I'll probably get some friends who haven't flown to try it out and just put them on the buddy box and go. Okay. All right. I need to build one of Laine's Cudas. Yes, I do. I do, and that will come over time. I haven't decided whether I will try the balsa or if I'll just stick with foam. I'm more of a foam person. I find I enjoy the foam a little bit more, but it's definitely a possibility to jump in some balsa kits over time. So it's funny. Everybody's sending me stuff and notices online and everything. But yes, I will look for a little cowbell. Nice light one. King Crafts #1. Hey Andre. Evening. So now speaking of stuff from Brian and his son Alex, I did the Radian module, and a lot of people were asking what it looks like, and I'm actually going to be putting into this thing this guy. Look how tiny that receiver is. Isn't that awesome? That obviously is the from FR Sky. That is the GRX6. So many numbers and codes and everything. But that is tiny. 6-channel with a Vario. Isn't that wild? Okay, I'm going to try and move the Radian without bumping all the other gear and go from there. We talked about this on the last update and even the podcast, but people were asking what this thing looks like. Can I get this onto the bench without running into anything? Hit the camera. The Radiant is so big. Okay, I'm gonna put this thing down. Put this here. Put that there. Okay, I need something underneath. And still need something underneath. Wow, get another box. Alright, there. There. Alright, where's my little motion camera? Okay, so that is the part. This is the little Radian guy, and that is from Brian's and Alex's design. That is an Arduino board. Now, the party trick to this guy, as I mentioned before, is the fact that it has the Vario, the barometer inside of it, and it will light up the tail and everything, which is pretty wild. I have not ripped out the other receiver yet. I have not ripped out the other controller board yet. I have to go through all it, but this is hooked in, and if I get some gear out, I can give you some ideas of how it will work. Do I have my other little receiver kicking around? Alright, I do. Haha. Okay. Now, give me a second. I'll get all this going. The great part about a Friday night is we can just hack away and I can demonstrate a lot of this equipment. So, I have this. Actually, I don't even need a receiver. I can just use my gear I have here, my servo tester. So it will run off 5 volts. I haven't decided if I want to run the 5 volt through a UBAC so I don't overload the receiver, or if I want to try and I'm just aligning my camera so you guys can watch along. If I want to put in a UBAC so I don't overload the receiver. The stock one was huge. I've got smaller ones, so I'm thinking I might just go on a 2nd channel because the board, there we go, I got it the shot. The board actually has 2 inputs, and so I could technically use the 2nd input and not load my receiver and drive it too hard. So we'll see what I end up doing. Yes, group build. Ooh, that would be cool. Go with the UBAC. Yeah, that's the general consensus. Why overload your main board? The nice thing with this running off the 5 volt and not tying up the other board ran off your use the balance port, is then I can throw in with that receiver I'm using. Could throw in some battery monitoring if I wanted to. So that's kind of handy. So here we go. So channel 1, this guy. And I'm just going to put an extension on, which won't do me any good. I need, I don't need this. I need this cable. So channel 1, come back up over here. There's my tester and my power for my tester. And what I noticed when I was playing with this guy was the fact that okay, you probably can't even see the end of the lights, so I'm gonna go to here. We'll go back to camera 1 and see if you guys can see the end tips. So we probably can't. This thing is so big. The Radian is so big. But on the ends, the nav lights are there. Camera 2. There you go. Red lights. And then on the other side, green lights. And what I noticed when I was playing with my receiver was it was very easy to it was very, very, very easy to overshoot the level I wanted. So I found, rather than using the slider, I found using one of the dials on the FR Sky radio a little nicer. And I'm going to try and add in, when I'm testing it next, I'm going to try and add in a little bit of delay or slowness. Very similar to when you drop your servos and so forth, or your flaps. Try that. So, all right, here we go. We're going to start bouncing through some of these things. And as you dial through, you can change so many different settings, and it's pretty phenomenal to watch. It's pretty amazing to go through and find the one you like. Like I said, the only thing I haven't found yet is the make the tail do any of the dancing. So I'm figuring that will come very soon, and hopefully it'll do it. And the idea behind the tail stuff is it will show you your altitude, and then if the board is pitching up and down and stuff like this, it will show the tail lighting. So, ooh, I think this is in the middle. I'll have to talk to Brian again. He was trying to tell me some details about what and where it would activate. He also said just get it up in the air because he thinks it's the altitude that doesn't want to, without the altitude, it doesn't want to respond and show me that intel information. So I'm going to get it up in the air. We're going to find out if it works. So like I said, the next round of business for me is to gut all the other equipment and then go from there. Very cool, and this controller is available and it plugs into the Radian controller. Yeah, let's see, I'll go back to my main camera. Sorry, my little camera. So here are all the wires for the lights, the tail, the main body, and the back boom. They originally, it's kind of cramped in here, they originally plugged into this board down in here. I think you can see it with that. Let me get in there. See that? So they originally plugged into that, so it's going to come out, and that was run by the original controller board, which is this guy here. There was a bunch of switches here, and the board that was from Jay Bauer, you could do very similar controls. This, however, takes over in that it allows you to do even more crazy controls because it's actually doing light addressing, it's channel addressing and everything. So that's where you get your in-nav lights and everything. I will throw up the link to this if I can. If not, someone who already knows this, they'll be able to get the link. It's in all the social media. It's in the it's inside a couple other ones. I will throw it up on the comments for the video, or check my last video, the podcast. It was in there. I just don't have access to anything. Hey, oh, hey Tom. Cool, thanks. All right. So carrying on with this, so basically it goes in that whole spot in there, and then I'll be putting in that little receiver and getting rid of the Spectrum one. The Cylon mode is freaking wild though, eh? Look at that. And then there's a Canadian mode. Oh, there should be. A couple different, and then off. This could be the altitude one. I just don't know yet. I can't wait to get this thing in the air and test it out. So it's going to be quite neat. I saw it working in Ohio, and it was what really impressed me at Flight Fest when Brian showed me, and I immediately bought the unit. I'm just trying to get that tail stuff to show. Look at that red. I mean, there's so many options. So that was the biggest thing I noticed working on my remote, is that just there was so many different options that it wasn't, you tick through One of the things you can do if you don't have a dial or slider is do a 3-position switch and just go through and find your favorite ones and note the number, and then you can just tack through them, right? So obviously I want that nav option, and when I'm flying through it should give me my altitude indication, but we'll see where it goes. The other cool part is, like I said, Brian and his son Alex are putting the content for the Arduino into the GitHub repository, so then you'll be able to basically program any light sequence you want. So you can customize your Radian to everything you want. Like I said, when I fly at night, I've noticed I'm not a fan of flashing lights. I find it hard on my eyes. I find the strobing a little too aggressive. So I'll probably find a pattern which is not this, So they're really nice with the but again, I haven't even flown this Radian, so I apologize for the water. I'm thirsty. I got to tape on the tail, put the wings on, and obviously I'm going to find some very short 10 centimeter servo extensions, and that'll allow me to go through and run the wings when I'm putting them on and off a little easier. So, woo! This thing has so many options. I just can't wait to get the to get that nav. For me, that's the biggest thing. The altitude, well, I'm not too worried about the altitude. I like the idea of being able to see if I'm going up and down. Like I said in the previous show, when you're climbing, green; when you're diving, red; when you're level, white. So once I figure that out and get that all running, that will be a really handy thing. The altitude too will show up in one light, 100, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then obviously with the FR Sky receiver, which is buried under here somewhere. Oh, yeah. So, so there we go. I've rambled on a little faster than I thought I was going to. But this will go in pretty easily. Like I said, I got to remove a couple of the other pieces. Everything went in really well, but now obviously I've got to remove the servos, remove that receiver that sits in the front, and basically get this thing all geared up for FR Sky, which will make me a lot more comfortable running it with the built-in module. Plus, I'll get the data back, which is really nice. I don't know how many of you, pardon me, woo! I don't know how many of you use the FR Sky stuff and read out the altitude, the vario. I like the beeps, and I also like hearing the radio call out those altitudes, so I know, if I'm sinking a little too aggressively. When we flew the Radians at Flight Fest, that was on, but I noticed my beeps were they were off, so I got to redo the settings on that thing. So just reading through some comments, it would have been nice if they had put the LEDs on the leading edge. It disappears when flying. It's well. Okay, so they are sort of, they do run out, but on the top they are white, but really, once you climb and level out, I guess that's the thing about the Radian, it is kind of nice and calm to some degree, and I get it. It's when you do a turn, you can add lights to circuits as well. I'm adding a bright LED to the nose so I can always tell it's coming towards me. Yes, so I had the Night Walrus from Hobby King, and that was my biggest gripe with that aircraft is the front end of the aircraft was really dim. So I bet if you were to strap a light into the canopy inside and just glow that area, that would probably be huge as well. But this is definitely a step in the right direction, plus being able to program it and everything. So it is... Oh, pardon me. It is very cool, very interesting to see things going, and this kind of innovation. And this is something that I'm really going to be focusing in on the podcast. Eventually, I want to get Brian and Alex on talking about some of the products. Like I said, they did the cow sound system for me, so. It is just moving forward way some of the stuff I really want to see. I purchased from TBRC their what was it? The Twin Boom. I was posting that on my social media earlier in the week. Let's disconnect this and get our lighting ambient light back. Woo, there we go. So that one will be a build. I have also from TBRC the Apex. So you're going to start seeing some builds. I had the wing from Defiant. I got my Defiant 28 sitting over there, which is at 75% complete. I need to just cut in the ESCs and the servos and just get the CG just right with all the FPV gear. So there's going to be a lot of stuff. Warlock, thank you, Jody. And Luis. Yeah, so there's going to be so many builds coming in through the winter and everything. Winter, I said winter. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Yes, winter is coming, and I'm preparing for it. But there's still going to be lots of flying into the spring, into the fall. Yeah, you can tell it's Friday, and I've been very active this week, even though I've been traveling. So there's going to be lots going on, lots and lots going on. And today was still a really good day for the post. For those who are watching, I finally got another package that I was waiting on. Can I put this thing down? I need something underneath it. I need a box. All right, we're going to try and move this thing over very gracefully without whacking the camera. I said that. I'm trying. All right, that will be a little better. There we go. This came in. For those who don't know, I'm dealing with a lot of craziness in life, but I'm super pumped about this thing coming in because it's freaking awesome looking. Here, I'm just going to hold this up to the main camera. This is called Type 1 Tactical. And that is a carbon fiber embedded plastic. That's an insulin pump holder, and I'm super stoked about finally getting this thing. I ordered this in April. These guys are Type 1 Tactical. They are independent little group. This thing is handmade, so I was really excited to see this come in. And the fall null, oh man, I would love to get out to some of those other events, but getting out to Jewel Knoll, what is it? It's almost 10 hours for me to get to Ohio for Flight Fest. Jewel Knoll is double, so not entirely realistic. Anyhow, this pump case, yeah, this will be useful for me in the next couple of weeks because that was something that also was confirmed today. So I finally get my insulin pump, which is super. Not that things are bad right now, but I definitely am looking forward to some of those slightly better quality of life stuff. So yeah, you are super pumped, eh? Yeah, the king of puns. Thank you, Eddie. Yeah, so that thing came in. That's huge. It's another big change in life and everything, but everything else is going. So here's a question. Tomorrow, the winds are looking absolutely ridiculous. Everything is going to be above. I'm just checking my UAV forecast. Forecast. Everything, wind gusts pushing nothing below 34, and then everything jumping up. There's 42, 41, 43 at 8 o'clock in the morning. So what should I fly? Should I try and fly that Mamba again, or should I just go out with the Tundra, which will handle the wind? I'd really had hoped to get one of the EDF jets out, but I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe Sunday, the weather might be a little better, and I'd probably either do the Hawk or the Yak and just crack one of those maidens out. But hey, look at that! I got the Mamba going in a couple weekends. It would have flown last weekend if the elevator hadn't been a little sketchy. So Mamba Tundra weekend, maybe. If the winds calm down Sunday, though, I do promise I'll try and get an EDF out there. The guys are pushing me. The local guys are pushing. They want to see the A10. I want to fly the Flex jet again. And there's a bunch of jets and planes over there on the other side of the hangar that haven't been flown. So that's stuff I'm going to work on through the season. So like I said, format-wise, live show, builds. Maybe one night I'll just fire up the camera, answer some questions, and just sit there and build away. Because those wings all need some attention. Play with my trucks. I've got what, 5 uncompleted wings that I could build. I got a bunch of flight test kits back there, and then there are a good number of airplanes here that, there's the T-28 that has not flown yet. I just it came in right when things were going bad for me. And then the buffalo, after I went to fly that thing, discovered it is terribly tail heavy, tail heavy, and so I need to put in some weight to the front of it so that it will balance better. And then potential FPV. So who knows? Who knows? Again, gorgeous looking airplane. Steve did a really nice job. It's got some nice features to it, but apparently it needs a spinner. So we're going to play around with it. I'm going to see if I can get some of that weight more forward, jam that battery all the way to the front, and see if I can get this thing to fly. Because if this thing gets going, it's another good 2200 aircraft, 3S 2200 aircraft that you can just bomb around and have fun with. So it does have a 10x5 prop, which I don't think I've got any spares. So I will have to have a look at it. Do not fly the Mamba without stabilization in high wind. No, no, I agree. I think the stabilizer, like I said, made me look a lot better than I did. The A10 probably will. Heavier prop nut. Yeah, a spinner. Steve told me this plane was spec'd out to have a spinner on the front. I have a collection of various spinners which I might try and mount on the front of that motor and just see if I can get this thing to fly really nice. It was on the edge of flying well, but as soon as I slowed down to approach, it just became really unstable. I mean, obviously it's not a huge aircraft, and I was kind of, under the impression that it had enough nose weight and all the way in there. That's all the way in there. Maybe I'll move that receiver up a tiny bit, but I can't see that causing me any problems. But again, everything will help. There's my CG points, and that was measured with a caliper, and you can see I was close, but it flew. There's a video of it, and it flew horribly. I found it really skittish, and just was like, wow, okay, let's get this thing sorted. So a couple wrinkles in the wing from the cartwheel that it did, and I added nose weight. I took this thing out and I put an extra weight into the cow, but I'll see if I can get a bigger spinner on it and see what I can figure out to make it work, because it definitely looks nice and would fly really nice. Fly the DJI, can get some good film. Yeah, I do like flying my Phantom. I've found a new spot last time I was out with Captain Drone, and I've linked his channel in a few times. So Steve, Captain Drone, is doing really well. I think he's hitting 60,000 YouTube subscribers, which is mental. But dude works hard for that. So there you go. Put that one back. I love that setup. Hey, that is just a way to put planes up there. They just sit there and they rock away. So. And with such a nice airplane, yeah, Brian, totally. With such a nice airplane, yeah. Mine was too nose heavy with a 22 all the way forward. That's just weird. Now, Chris has told me when we compared flying, what was it? It was the Slowpoke. He says, a lot of people for me, it just didn't feel right. The plane just, like when I slowed down, it would drop that tail and it was really unstable. So that's kind of interesting that you were able to put yours back. Maybe the weight was different. Maybe the nose weight that they put in from factory was different. So, and who knows? I just know mine was really squirrely. So I'm like, okay, let's just change that up. Tundra, like I said, flew well. I changed the ESC in the Tundra last year, and I'm not convinced it was much better. I put the 60 amp, that's the updated ESC, into it. It was on sale, and that one has the prop reversing, and even today I accidentally had it on. I was like, well, what's the point of that? So I get it when you're on floats or anything. It doesn't work when you're on skis or nothing. So I'm like, So I might just put the stock 40 back in there and just run that, because that seemed to work really, really well. So that lighting does nothing. What else? Almost running out of memory again on the Tyrannus. One day I'm going to have to upgrade this radio system. I keep moving things off and deleting models and putting them in the backup and everything, but eventually I'm going to have to find a radio system. One of the ideas I'm really toying with is having, I have my old non-plus one there. is running all that stuff on the module. But the idea of taking 2 radios to the field with me all the time drives me crazy. I've got a nice hard case for this guy. I've got my field case with me now. Oh, that was something I did too. If anybody was a flight crew this year, they got a really nice, I think it's called Carmichael tool bag. And actually I was able to take my bin that I used to take with all my tools and everything, my batteries and everything, and condense it all into one bag. So it's really, my field going kit has really gotten smaller and efficient. So I really like that. So Jody is asking, hate having 2 radios, says Frank. Yeah, Frank even at one point had offered up the S10, and I just didn't have an opportunity to purchase it, and when I finally did, it was gone. So it's one of those, darn it, missed my opportunity. So someone's asking, the guys are asking who's going to be the next podcast, who's coming up on the podcast. I actually have not worked on that for next week's show. I'm going to talk to a various amount of people. I've got a few favorites I'd like to get back on the show and just do catch up because it's been a couple of weeks, and we'll go from there. But yes, the hot seat, and I got to go get my cards because, like I said, I want to start doing those rapid fire. Do I get a bell? Ding. And, you know, and just, we're going to have fun with these questions. And if people want to send in questions, laugh out loud, I'm too tight kind of guy. Wow. Goodness, whenever I take my Phantom to me with the field to me, it's so much extra gear, so it doesn't come out very often. Now, okay, podcast. Focus. So, start writing in your questions. I want to make those hot sheets. I'm going to go get a bunch of cue cards, and we're just going to put those sheets in, and we can randomly ask those things, and, you know, you've got 10 seconds to talk about something, and ding, ding, you know, very talk show like I mentioned previously. We'll have some fun. We get a bunch of data. I've been talking to everybody. I sent emails out to all the contacts we have and just said, look, things are changing. We're doing a little bit of a format change. You know, if you're interested in coming on, please, you know, give me an opportunity. And we'll, one of the nice things about not having a set time anymore, not doing Sunday morning, is I can change the flexibility of the show. Talk to everybody. If I have to pre-record it and dump it in the show and post, I totally will. But I want to get those interviews back in. I want to get those people on the show because that's the whole point. The podcast, if you didn't look on the social media earlier in the week, the podcast is actually in a really good spot under the iTunes library. Speaking of that, make sure you go in there, whatever subscription service you use, go in there, leave a comment, leave a star, leave a check mark, do a review. And it just helps. It helps propagate the thing, propagate the show in the standings and everything, and just keep it going. So lightning round, awesome. Yes, any flyers by Newmarket, as in Newmarket, Ontario. So yeah. Spread the word. Earlier this afternoon, someone was asking about the discount code from Get FPV. I gave them that it's after hours, but I did mention them and say, hey, you guys should be sponsoring. Send little notes. You should be sponsoring the podcast. They're actually not sponsoring the podcast at this point. They were. I'm not really bothering or bugging any suppliers about being sponsors yet. I want the show to prove itself. For me, it feels like we've turned a whole new page. It's a new show. And I want that show to actually, you know, prove its grain, prove its worth, show what and how it's going to grow, and we'll go from there. So, by all means, mention it, talk to your favorite suppliers and see if they want to be involved. I'm going to go and, you know, drop a quick note to Great Hobbies here in Canada, since, you know, they're one of my suppliers that I try and frequently use when I have an opportunity to get to them. Downtown traffic is a little crazy sometimes. Yeah, and just build it and just have some fun and keep going. I'm excited about a lot of the projects, like I said, and the opportunity to combine what I do and the podcast and just grow that idea and grow that knowledge base and grow that stuff. And we'll have some fun. I'm talking to Flight Test as well because obviously good close connection with those guys, and we'll see where everything goes. So if you have any other questions, otherwise I think that's not bad. What was that, 40 minutes of rambling? That's almost like another little mini podcast. I won't be putting the Friday Flying updates out as a podcast, obviously, because it's a little less scripted, a little more informal, a little bit more fun. But if you have any questions, small quads flying, like Okay, Andy RC, Nick Burns on the podcast. Okay, I'll get to know them as well. And I'd like to, geez, man, I haven't, where are they? I haven't flown a quad in such a long time. I mean, these are my, you know, I miss these guys, the multi-RC guys. They were awesome. Some of their ideas were pretty good. So this is my little shenanigans. I think I just need to throw a new prop on this guy and it's ready to go. Look at that little guy. Look how tiny that thing is. Keyboard. See that? Look at this little guy. Very simple. I mean, it's old by current standards. It runs on a little, it's got some nice 3D printed material on it. It's got the dampening on everything. So I really miss these guys. It's really unfortunate that Mark and the crew went away. And then the other one I have is showing its age. I guess it needs a little glue and everything. This is the GT90. I think the problem I had was last time I flew it, I think one of the screws had stripped out for the motors, so I gotta go and fix that. And obviously it's seen a little grass, but again, fun little 2S500. This thing goes, and it's really good in the backyard. This is okay in the backyard, but I'm always concerned about putting it through a pool or something like that. So my buddy there, Steve, who Captain Drone, he wants me to get out flying quads with him too. And I kind of find it's funny, quad flying is like one of those social things where it's a lot more exciting to fly with friends and everything. So we'll get into that. Just got back from flying my Viper, and F-15 was an awesome night fly. Yeah, I bet it is actually. Actually, no, it was raining earlier on. It's dark now, but eventually that night reading is going to go out. And of course, you can't go wrong with the trusty Pawnee. That is still one of my favorite all-time night flying aircraft. It's solid, it's predictable. And you just got to fly it like a race car, I've learned. That's all. So, yeah. Yes, Jody Springs mentioning that, yeah, the multi-RC guys were really nice guys. They were super. And this was a review I bought. All the parts and did a review for the shenanigan, and they had some other neat ideas coming out, but for me this was like just the eye-opener for the size. I played with the 150s and larger, but the little 90 is just the right size, and like I said, 3S 900, it will do 4S, but I never saw the point, so kind of banged around on 3S, and it's really simple, really small. It's got all the little telemetry you need it and everything. So yeah, okay. Night Radian, gotta love it. I will have to get my night Radian out flying very soon. Frank says, I've not flown a quad in years. When I went to Wings, it's funny because yes, when I look at a quad, I see a bomber. I admit it. I just see plane parts and everything. Gotta admit, I realize I miss it now. And of course, you know, the little Inductrix guys, you know, once the weather gets really bad, they come out, and these things are a hoot. You know, I've got multiple of them, so you know, I'm trying to get my son to fly these in the winter, you know. But this one is really good. The only problem you run into with the Inductrix is the darn props always fly off when you're in the air. Robert says, Flight Fest Canada 2020. Oh, that would be cool. That would definitely be a special event. You never know. You never know what's around the corner. You never know where it would go. Obviously, all the regulations would play into that. But I suppose if you're a sanctioned pilot, you're good to go. So who knows? All right, private party. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, folks. I think we're approaching 9 o'clock, and I think it's been a pretty good ramble, pretty good go. I will get to sitting down on my laptop eventually this weekend and edit out all the footage of the Mamba. I'm going to charge some batteries for tomorrow morning, obviously, if I want to take those things up, and just go out and fly, and we'll see how the weather looks. I've been of the mindset lately when it comes to charging too that I wait and see how the weather is before I actually get up and charge the batteries, because I've had a few instances where I've charged them and unfortunately they've sat because the weather is just too gnarly. So on that note, I'm Andre. thank you for watching. Tune in next week for the Friday when we do our next podcast. I'm not 100% sure who the guest is, but I'll line that up and I will announce it. Or will I? Because every time we announce the guest, something goofy would happen. But the cool thing about Friday nights is now we can line stuff up and we can go from there. So, yeah. So it's been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. This worked out really well. It looks like the stream was pretty darn fluid, and the technology is going. Again, I'm going to probably pick up some better webcams as I go. I'm super happy that silly PC that's I put in has been doing a really good job of transmitting. The internet seems to be handling it. The stream seems quite fluid, and yeah, there we go. And I think if I hit this button, oh, there's music in the background. And yeah, on that note, thank you everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you everybody later on in the week. Ciao.